Happy Mind Renewal Monday. I have one question for you. Do you empower others or do you enable them? Those words sometimes can feel like you're doing the same thing when you're acting them out, but they are actually very distinctly different. So I'm going to read the definitions of the two, and then I want you to sit and think about how you interact with others. In yesterday's Soul Reset Sunday blast, we talked about laying down the burdens of others. And this is one major key to it, making sure that we are focused on empowering others and not enabling them. So, to empower means to make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. So, that means that you're doing something to help them to gain control of their life, to claim their rights, to become stronger themselves, to become more confident themselves. It also means to give someone the authority or power to do something. And so you're literally giving them that power. And really, a lot of times when we're interacting with others, that may look like helping them to know that they already have that power. Now, this is distinctly different from enabling. When you become an enabler in someone's life, you intentionally or unintentionally support or facilitate the continuation of another person's harmful or destructive behavior, often out of a desire to protect or avoid conflict. Now, this doesn't have to be super harmful behavior or super destructive behavior. This can be even, watching someone self-sabotage. This can even be, watching someone not reach the goals that they set for themselves. This can be you not allowing someone to go through the process necessary in order to get to the things that they really want. You keep jumping in there and, saving them from themselves instead of allowing them to grow within themselves and have that power to change their own life and have that power to control their own life. I've heard someone say before, and I loved, the way that they put it. They said something along the lines of, you need to allow people the dignity of their own process. When you become an enabler, you basically become like a helicopter parent that tries to jump in there and save someone from themselves versus empowering them to know that they can do it, empowering them to know that things can get better for them, empowering them to know that they have the strength within them to make the improvements necessary to see a difference in their lives. At the end of the day, when you are an enabler, you are essentially giving someone a fish and they will have to come back to you every time they're hungry. But when you are an empowerer, which I don't even know if that's a word, when you choose empowerment, you basically teach someone to fish. And though, yes, they may have to sit with the water and have the hook in the water for a bit and, learn the best bait and, all of the ins and outs of fishing, once they learn, they will be able to feed themselves for a lifetime. And there is such a difference between the two. I think sometimes when, especially as Christians, followers of Christ, we can feel like compassion has to look like you swoop in and save. But even Jesus didn't necessarily do that when he interacted with people who were sick, when he interacted with people who needed financial miracles, when he interacted with people, who were in need, essentially. There were times when he just gave them what they needed, but there are many more times in the Bible, both with Jesus and throughout the rest of the Bible, where what he did for them was empowered them to go forth. He let them know, hey, I know you feel powerless, but actually, here's the key. You have the power to go forth and change. When you think about the man that was sick by the pool of Bethesda, who was just like, oh, no one can come put me in the pool. Like, I've just been sick here for so many years and, whatever. Jesus didn't say to him, oh, poor thing, let me help you and pick you up and take you to the pool. What he did was he helped the man see his own power, and he told him, get up. Take up your bed and walk. And guess what? The man was like, oh, snap. He followed the directions. And what he realized in that moment was that he had more power than he knew to control his own outcome. And that is what it truly means to be the light of the world. Being the light of the world does not mean that you need to swoop in and save everyone. It means that you let your light so shine so that people may see your good works and glorify your God in heaven. What does that mean? Because sometimes we think of good works as, just charity. We think of good works as just going and doing the thing for someone. And there may be times when you have to be that link between someone seeing their power, where they may need, some charitable act or some charitable, giveaway to get to that other side. But that's not the end of it. Being the light means you shine so much so that someone may realize the light that's within them and begin to glorify God themselves by going forth in the power that God has already given them. I think of it like, candles. You know how if you take one candle that is fully burning, that you can put that candle to another wick on another candle and it will begin to burn as well. That is what empowerment looks like. It looks like you giving the light to another candle so that then it can burn on its own. It does not look like, for example, a stove which continuously needs the gas in order to burn. It looks like you going ahead and giving that spark and showing that candle that it can burn on its own. Now, there's so much that's harmful about enabling. Like, we can feel good in the moment, we can feel like we helped, we can avoid that conflict, and we can, in the moment help that person to feel all good and warm and fuzzy. But at the end of the day, in the long run, you're not actually helping when you're enabling. You're actually pretty much harming. You're harming yourself and you're harming the other person. You're harming yourself because a lot of times when you are in a cycle of enabling behavior, you never reach your full potential. You never grow and blossom into the fullness of who you are meant to be. You never go forth and actually help in the world in the ways that you're really meant to help. You're stuck in a cycle of saving and swooping in and saving someone else who really, if they were empowered, could know that they could save themselves. And it's harmful for the other person because, again, they never grow into their full potential. They're consistently dependent on you. And, even though it feels like you are being a servant in that moment, even though it may feel like you are being helpful and humble in those moments, when you are consistently enabling, there's actually a lot of ego tied up in that because you put yourself in a position to have to be that person's Superman or Superwoman consistently. You put yourself in a position where that person has to need you consistently. And the most humble thing you can do in those situations is not to become the person that someone else needs, not to develop a codependent relationship where they consistently have to come to you. But the most humble thing you can do in that situation is to shine a light to them, empower them, enlighten them on what's already within them, what's already available at their disposal, the power within them, the light within them, the resources available to them to allow them to grow, develop, and blossom into the fullness of themselves where they don't need you in that same way anymore. When you empower someone, you spark a light within them and then they can burn and burn in a good way. Their light can shine. When you enable someone, they consistently have to just draw from your light. And that's not fair to you. That's not fair to them. That's not healthy. That's not well. And that's not God's intention for us being the lights in the world. And, I know that there are ways that you can read the Bible that make it seem like that's the way in which we're meant to interact. But at the end of the day, God didn't intend for us to live powerless lives in general. And he didn't intend for us to be the only people that have power and then make everyone else have to live powerless lives and depend on us. That's not how this works. And so in order to become an empowerer over an enabler, there are a few things that you can do. One, you want to set boundaries. Definitely, I know this is a cliche thing that we hear all the time, but literally set boundaries for yourself. And before, one of my coaches actually talks about how you need to set internal boundaries first, like boundaries with yourself first, so that then they can be translated to others. So that means thinking about what is important for you, how you are disciplining yourself in your life, so that then when others come in, you know where you end and where they begin. You know where those lines need to be drawn, right? And so that's setting boundaries for yourself. What's important to you? What type of time structure do you need in your life? What type of money and financial structure do you need in your life? What type of work structure versus rest structure do you need in your life, etc.? Setting those boundaries is helpful for yourself first, so that then when you are interacting with others, you know where you can give, where you can do more, etc. Then you want to encourage accountability. It is not harmful to someone else to hold them accountable. It is not a negative thing to hold them accountable. It is actually, sometimes when we're looking at someone in their struggles, our initial thought and our initial, desire may be to think that the compassionate thing would be to swoop in and save them. But the most compassionate thing you can do in that moment is to, yes, empathize with them, yes, share, kind words with them, but then also work with them to come up with a strategy, a way forward, a solution that they can go forward in to empower themselves, to help them to know that they can do it, to help them to know that there's better on the other side and that, it is within them. Because when you do that one time, when they come to another problem, yes, they may need another, enlightenment. However, they will know that the power is within them to solve and to get out of this situation. Versus, again, if you swoop in, you don't hold them accountable, you don't, let them know that it is within their power to go forward in their lives, you're not really helping them. And so encourage and accountability for those that you are supporting in every kind of way. And then you may need to get help with this. You may need to seek therapy because there's a lot of, things that we may have developed in childhood, in religion, and other spaces that told us that the actual way that you help others is to enable. That may be literally the paradigm we have in our minds, and it's set so deep. So we may need help to unpack and uncover, those things so that we can uh, um, forge a new path forward to empowering others versus enabling them. And I will leave with this last example. I know, I've learned, like, teaching children taught me so much about life, and I'm so grateful for that time. And one thing that I definitely did as a teacher was I did not want my students even to have to consistently come back to me. I always empowered them to go do their research first before I would give them the answer. Now, granted, when I'm teaching a lesson, obviously I would teach them the lesson. But I mean, let's say we're working on a writing assignment and they want to know how to spell something, or they want to know what a word means. I would always empower them to go look it up first. I would always ask them, did you go try this first? Did you go try that first? Before they would come to me and I would give them the answer. Because I always wanted them to feel empowered to be able to find the answers they need, whether or not I was there. It helped them to know, hey, I can do things. Hey, I can figure things out. Hey, I can use my own critical thinking skills to go forward. And even when I help others, in business and in life and different things like that, I use that same principle with them because it is the most dignifying thing to let someone else know that they have power too. It can feel good to your ego that someone has to consistently come back to you, but it will be so much better for your soul and your spirit when you see that, wow, I gave this one person a little seed. I planted a seed and they continue to water it for themselves and take care of it, and it blossomed into something beautiful because of what they poured into that seed after the fact. It does so much more for the world when we operate in that way, and it is so much more healthy. And, it eliminates codependency, where again we have this unhealthy someone needing us consistently and us being needed consistently, and it sets us up to all walk in the authority and power that God intended for us to have here on the earth. And so I'll leave you with this question again: do you help others by empowering them, or do you find yourself enabling them? And the last question I'll ask you is, if you find yourself enabling them, what are you going to do? How are you going to shift in order to become an empowerer over an enabler? So I hope that was helpful to you today. I will drop a link below for yesterday's blog for Soul Reset Sunday, because there are some affirmations, some scriptural references, and some journal prompts that may help you along this journey. I also went through some of the people who may be prone to this type of behavior already, so that if you see yourself there, you can start to do the work to unpack. And then I also encourage you to grab the Restore Journal, which is officially out now. We are no longer in pre-order status. So grab your Restored Journal, because there's a whole chapter on, walking through taking off the burdens of others so that we can go forward and blossom. And in that way, when we blossom, we, empower others to do the same. And so I hope that you have a healthy and wholesome day, and I will talk to you soon, God willing. Love you bunches.